Hello, my name is Mike Baer. I'm your instructor for Intro to Sociology this year. I apologize for not being in class today. The sociology convention was this weekend. No one knows why they did it this late, because just about everyone starts teaching tomorrow, or teaching on Monday. But it is what it is, and so I'm in a hotel room on the way back to Dallas, giving you this lecture today. One of the ironies is that typically the first day, kind of hand out the syllabus, talk about it a little bit, and then leave. But since I'm doing this video lecture, you're actually going to have probably a longer lecture than usual, even though we're not together. So that's it. Really, the main purpose here is to kind of give you a feel for what I'm like as a lecturer, so you can decide, do you want to see this guy for the rest of the semester, hear him yapping, and all that kind of stuff. And so, giving you some basis, since I can't be here today. The course is Intro to Sociology. I'm not sure how many of you have taken this before, or taken a sociology course before, since this is an intro course. My guess is most of you haven't. Could be this is your first college course too. Sociology itself is it's often defined as when you look in the textbook, the scientific study of society, social groups, the social world, the fact of the matter is, sociologists study a lot of things, and there's several things that I just mentioned. They're kind of abstractions that get at a lot of different types of the things that we study. So, just let me say a few things about what that means: scientific and social world being the main scientific object. By scientific, I think there's this tendency to think of science, scientists as people in white lab coats, doing experiments. Probably the classic example is from physics or chemistry or maybe biology. But really, what's central to science, science, the term itself has a very long background in Greek society, but it has to do with inquiry that's systematic, where the inquirers observe things, and their conclusions are based on the evidence of what they observe, or what they argue logically. That's what the systematic part is about, and also making the procedures and the arguments explicit and scrutinizable by others. Those are sort of the basic things. Think of science in the very general terms as sort of scientists provide a recipe for what they did and how they got what they got, so that other scientists and other interested people can sort of look at the recipe and either replicate it themselves. If these procedures are followed, then you should come up with the same thing, and so on. So, that's what's meant by scientific. Sociology tries to do that similar thing, but studying social life, studying people, what they do, studying societies, studying social interactions. So, the types of questions sociologists ask, things like, if we're thinking about social life in general, social interactions, the stuff that you see every day on a ground level with people. Questions like, what are patterns of regularities in the way people interact? What rules do they follow? What are the things that they're trying to do with respect to one another, and why? These are sort of the basic types of questions sociologists ask when they're looking at interactions. Also, sociology studies groups and institutions and organizations, cultural patterns, patterns of beliefs and attitudes that different groups have, or that are sort of the average within an entire society. What are the values and norms? What are the patterns of beliefs and religions, in as much as religion is important in society, and it is in most societies. And also, when we're talking about societies, thinking about them sociologically, some of the questions are how do different societies differ from one another? Japanese society versus American society, American society versus French society, and so on. How are different societies structured and organized with respect to things like class and race and gender? What is sort of the hierarchy of values that societies have? What types of economic and political institutions are in the society? Questions like that. So, you might think of those types of questions as macro sociological, whereas when you're looking at social interactions on the ground level, that's often referred to as micro-sociology. You'll see that distinction made in the book. So that kind of tells you, the basic thing about this course and what it's about. You should be able to already discern a difference if you've taken something like psychology. Psychology studies the individual, sort of in abstraction. Even though there's branches of psychology that certainly consider the individual in his or her social context. But in contrast, sociology is focused on that context and then might consider things that are going on in the heads of individuals. So kind of coming at it from the opposite direction that psychology does. So that should give you an idea of the sort of subject matter sociology is. So with that, we'll, as we read the book and go through the various topics over the semester, a lot of the themes will consider things like social class, social stratification, social inequality. These are all central sets of problems or themes in sociology. We'll consider gender. We'll consider gender inequality. We'll consider certain institutions, important institutions, like the government, like the economy, religion, the family, and so on. But we'll also look at the sorts of methods, scientific methods that sociologists use. And then we'll talk about, we'll come back to this over and over again, sort of the main theories, main perspectives in sociology. Conflict, looking at the world as competition and conflict, brought on by competition over scarce resources. There's also a line of theory that thinks about an entire society as sort of like an organism with structures that serve various functions. The family produces people and socializes them to participate in the society. The economy provides basic necessities and employment and things like that for the family, and they work together. So that's another way of looking at the social world, called functionalism. So we'll talk about theories like that. Now, as far as with me and my format, in terms of format, we'll have a textbook, but I'll also lecture and we'll discuss things. You can't get away with just doing one or the other, coming to class and hearing my lectures, or just reading the book. You're going to have to do both. I don't really, you'll be able to tell. I know you all can read, and I expect you to. And while we will generally, I will lecture. Uh, in My lectures will correspond with the particular chapter in the book. I'm not going to read from the book, and I'm probably not going to talk in any really specific way about things that are in the book. I'll just expect that you know them. I'll highlight things, but really my lectures, uh, they'll, the, there's supposed to be sort of an equal division of labor between classroom time of my lecture and the book. And my lectures pretty much will do things like emphasize, maybe augment things that are in the book, provide context in a lot of cases, or fill in gaps that the book doesn't cover that are important nevertheless. And I don't know if I mentioned it already, but provide historical context, or possibly theoretical context. Whenever you're reading about a particular topic in sociology, and the book will be talking about research findings and so on. Sometimes a particular topic is the result of a long conversation, if you will, a long line of research and discussion that's been going on, and it might help in some cases to tell you a little bit about that, so that you're not walking in, so to speak, on a conversation that's been going on for some time before you got there. We all know what that's like. Sometimes it's just incomprehensible. You don't know what the people have been talking about. And so my lectures will do things like that. And I'll also, call on you, class members, to discuss things. And class time too will be used as a format for exercising what we've learned. So that's the way I'm going to teach the class, how I tend to hold class. As far as me and my style, I think most people think I'm very laid back, and I am. But at the same time, I'm pretty demanding. And one weakness, you might say, is these two tendencies sometimes militate. It's like I might give you mixed signals. I'm laid back on the one hand, but I expect a lot out of you, and it's something you've got to keep in mind. So yeah, I'm laid back, pretty easygoing. It's the cliche, there are no stupid questions. Well, there are stupid questions, but you're not gonna, if someone asks a not terribly clever question, you're not gonna be able to know that from me. I take everything seriously, and when people ask questions, I try to kind of steer it into something that starts a discussion, or that helps us elaborate on something we're talking about. So that's the way I tend to hold class. I take what students say very seriously, and I think I have that sort of reputation. It certainly has come out on comments that students put in the surveys. As far as some of my weaknesses, if you could call this a weakness, I tend to use a lot of anecdotes, personal anecdotes, to provide illustrations, to make various subjects more concrete. I think there's a way that can sound self-indulgent, but from what I've gotten from most of my students, they like that. They like that I use a lot of examples, and even if they're personal ones, if they're on topic, they help. They help provide something concrete. That said, I have a little bit of a weakness on going on tangents. They tend to be pretty short, but I encourage you to bring some pebbles or something, so to speak, and just kind of ping me with them if I get a little off topic. But I'm kind of trying to make a joke about that. But that's a little bit of something I do. And I think that's mainly it. I don't like to be a talking head the whole time, as far as just lecturing at you and you taking down all the information. That sometimes happens, but it's usually because I'm trying to cover a lot, and there just isn't as much time to engage in discussion. Although that's what's preferred, or that's what I prefer, for us to discuss things, to learn together. I certainly don't know everything. It's a great understatement, I know. And that's fine. That's fine with me. If I don't know something, I'll either find it out or provide a hypothesis or something. I'm here to learn too. I like it. I like learning from my students. I like getting I like students to challenge what they've heard, whether it's what I've said or what's in the book, call it into question. That's what we're here for. That's why we're in a university. That's central to liberal arts, which sociology is usually housed under liberal arts college. So anyway, I hope that gives you a decent idea of what I'm like and what this class will be like. I do apologize again for not being there today. I apologize too for the background. I'm in an old motel in the middle of Missouri right now. I don't know if this decor is from the 70s, maybe the 80s. I don't know. I kind of feel like I'm in a bad talk show or something. And hopefully that hasn't detracted from my first lecture here. And I'm also very tired, so I apologize. I'm probably rambling a bit and saying a lot and things like that. And a lot of it has to do with just being a bit tired and it being late at night. So anyway, look forward to seeing you Wednesday. Those of you who decide to stick around, and I hope all of you do. But I certainly understand if you don't. I think that's the reality of college life. Some students love a particular professor, some hate him, and it has a lot to do with people's particular bent. So I might be the type of professor you don't learn that much from or don't like, etc. And if that's the case, hopefully this is giving you enough information to discern that. So anyway, not going to talk about the syllabus. You can read, I hope, right? And you can read it, and that would be the best thing to do. Go over it. Come to class Wednesday with questions about it. We'll discuss it at more length. So anyway, welcome, and be a good semester.